Well, this is Steve Ridgel, and we've been talking about if our God is so good, why is this world such a mess? And that's a good question. And I've shared over the last few videos what I think the answer is. It's found in the first few chapters of Genesis, but here it is in a nutshell. God made a perfect world. Satan couldn't stand that, came in, talked to Adam and Eve, helped them to make a bad choice. And bad choices have consequences. So we talked about how Satan said, did God really say? Sow some doubt about what God says. Lie about God. Don't worry, you won't die. And then finally, why don't you just be God? You're probably better at it than he is. Same thing Satan uses today, and we still have free will to make choices. And there are always consequences of choices. And this world is a mess because lots of people make lots of bad choices. Truthfully, some of us have made bad choices that contributed to this. And so what were some of those consequences to the bad choices? Well, one is they were out of the garden. The Garden of Eden, a perfect place to live. God made a perfect world for us to enjoy. We chose not to. God put man out of the garden. Now, they're significant on a couple levels. Primarily, that means death was in the world because tree of life, you're out of the garden, not near the tree of life. That's a pretty big consequence. So death is now in the world. And of course, now man's got to work in this perfect world where he could just tend to things and watch things and take care of things. And now he's got to get out and really work to make a living. And women, pain in childbirth. The consequences were severe for man's sin. But here's the neatest part of the story to me. God said, I made a perfect world. You chose not to follow me, not to mind me, not to do what I ask. And so the consequence is you're out of the garden. You're in an imperfect world where sin and evil will be prevalent, but I will fix it. In fact, God explains to the woman that through your lineage, through your seed, is going to come someone who will destroy the tempter, will destroy Satan, crush his head. Now, it'll bruise his heel, but will crush Satan. Of course, we Christians know that's the cross, the message of the cross. If you're not a believer, that's maybe the best news in this whole thing is that God did, through Eve's descendants, let his son be born into this world. His son died on the cross for our sins, and then God raised him from the dead. That crushed Satan, destroyed Satan forever. Satan cannot win. He believes, he seems to enjoy us being away from God and in rebellion to God, but ultimately, God gives us a choice to follow his son and be restored to a relationship with God. No more of this, where are you? But we can be in relationship with God. And that's the best news of this story. So, this world's a mess, I agree. A lot of evil and sin, I agree. Where's God? Where God has always been. God made a perfect world. We chose to mess it up. God said, I will restore it. And he is, through his son Jesus. And those of us that believe are partners in that restoration. Those that choose not to believe, I'd urge you, I'd beg you to take a look at the good news of Jesus Christ, where God brings us back to himself.